When me and Himiko Toga finally landed on the ground, she was still holding on to me very tightly, and I said, "We are here, silly girl," and she opened her eyes and she saw we were still very high in the sky and high above the UA high school, and she screamed, "Oh God, Deku, please put us on the ground." And then I said, "Relax, I'm not going to let you fall, and I trained you very well, remember, a fall from this height can't kill you." And then she said, "Oh, you're right, I forgot," but I gently lowered us down to ground anyway. And then I said to Himiko Toga, "No matter what, my love, never forget your training." And then she said, "I won't." And then Himiko Toga kissed me passionately, and every girl stopped to look at me because they didn't care that I have a girlfriend. They still all want to have sex with me, so they stared at me and Himiko Toga in envy. And I decided that before me and Himiko Toga get married, I'm going to have sex with all the beautiful female students in UA high school. And then Ochako Uraraka saw that I was about to trip on a rock, so Ochako Uraraka jumped in front of me and she looked up at me and she saw my beautiful green eyes and my beautiful long green hair, and she said in her mind, "Oh my God, he's beautiful. Are those cute little freckles on his beautiful face? Oh my God, his muscles are so big." And I asked, "What's the problem, ma'am?" And then she blushed red like a pervert and she said, "Oh, nothing, there's just a rock there and I don't want you to trip and fall and hurt your beautiful face, I mean handsome face and sexy body." "Oh, I'm so sorry, why is it so hot out here? Are you hot?" And then I giggled a bit and I said, "I like you." And then Ochako Uraraka blushed red like a tomato and I said, "Let's be friends." And then instantly Ochako Uraraka got a bit upset when I said that, and she said, "Sure, we can be friends, but I was actually hoping I could go on a date with you," Ochako Uraraka boldly said. And then I said, "But I have a girlfriend." And Ochako Uraraka said, "I don't care, I still want to date you." And then I looked her and said, "Okay, just tell me when and where to come pick you up." And then Ochako Uraraka gave me her phone number and her street address and even her real apartment number. And then I said, "I'm actually a great cook and I could cook for you if you want that." And then Ochako Uraraka said shamelessly, "Oh, that would be great, I would love for you to spend time with me in my apartment." And the main reason why I decided to have sex with Ochako Uraraka early in the story was because I know that Himiko Toga really loves Ochako Uraraka, and when they were both little kids they were best friends, but Ochako Uraraka doesn't remember her very well because Ochako Uraraka had an accident years ago and a healer helped her but also erased Ochako Uraraka's memories. When Himiko Toga took Ochako Uraraka to get healed all those years ago, she forgot who she was, and of course Himiko Toga just decided to let her forget because she was afraid it would cause her head trauma to resurface, so she didn't say anything. But Himiko Toga did watch the entire interaction between me and Ochako Uraraka, and Himiko Toga waited for me and she looked at me and said, "Come on Deku, we have to take our test." And then Himiko Toga said, "Ochako Uraraka and I were once childhood friends, but she doesn't remember me anymore." And then I said, "You can tell me about any time you're ready, Himiko Toga." And then Himiko Toga said, "We aren't married yet, so you can have sex with anyone you want to, and I'll understand if you do have sex with other women, but if you don't mind, I want to have sex with you and Ochako Uraraka when you two decide to have sex." And then I said, "Okay, later after school I want you to come with me to her apartment because she lives there alone." And Himiko Toga asked me, "Really, she lives there alone? That's insane." And then I said, "No, it's not, because you and I live together like a married couple and we are both only 15 years old, but I don't care about all that, Himiko Toga, I'm just very happy to be with you." And then I said, "Let's go, darling." And then we all went to take our written exams, and of course all the teachers know me very well, and Principal Nezu deliberately made my written test a lot more difficult. And I looked up at the faculty room and I asked, "Really, Nezu?" And then I smirked and said, "Okay." And then I got all the answers right and I knew it, and I still finished my written test before anyone, and Principal Nezu smirked and said, "That's to be expected from a genius like Izuku Midoriya." And then All Might said I chose him as my successor, and then Principal Nezu looked at All Might and smiled warmly and he said, "Then you have chosen very wisely." And All Might said, "I believe so, but the kid wouldn't take my quirk until I allowed him to heal me." And then Nezu said, "Yes, I heard that recovery girl gave you a clean bill of health recently, and she also said you're ready for war just like the old days." And then All Might said, "Honestly, I'm just glad to be able to eat properly again."